All right, so continuing the phylum chordata. So as we know, we have, as we said, the two phylums belonging to the deuterostomes, the echinodermata and then the chordata. The chordata, they have their endoskeleton. They have endoskeleton as echinoderms, but the endoskeleton is different. Okay, and as I told you, the endoskeleton of chordates, where we belong to chordates as well, is truly internal. Echinoderms exoskeleton is functionally similar to arthropods exoskeleton by, as I said, it is kind of superficial. مش مثل arthropods, of course, outside. It's still inside, but it's at the superficial layer. لما نحكي عن chordates, it includes fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Okay, so what are the four characteristics, okay, that specializes chordates? They have the nerve cord, they have the notochord that can be replaced by the vertebral column, they have the pharyngeal slits. We call them pharyngeal slits usually in fish, but in terrestrial vertebrates we call them pharyngeal pouches. The pharyngeal slits, they give rise to gills in fish, and in mammals or in terrestrial animals actually, they give rise usually to the jaws of the neck. Okay, so the jaws the jaws of the mouth, yeah. And they have a post-anal tail, okay, which nearly all other animals have this terminal anus, okay. So some of the chordates lose this post-anal tail, okay, some don't also as well, some lose the notochord later on, some not. So لما نحكي how they are in the embryonic stage, they are found in the embryonic stage. They can persist, okay, in the adult stage, and they give rise to other organs. As we said, مثلا here they can give rise to the jaws, the notochord can give rise to the vertebral column, and they can degenerate as well. This is showing, this representative is just showing the four characteristics. As you can see, the nerve cord, the pharyngeal pouches, which is going to give rise directly to the jaws or to the gill stamen in the fish, the notochord, and the post-anal tail. The other chordate characteristics also, chordates, they have the muscles that are arranged in segments called somites. Okay, these are the somites. They are kind of segments, okay, of segmented, if you need to say cells, okay, accumulation of cells, okay, that form the muscle cells. And you can see, guys, we're always referring to an embryos, okay? The characteristic always referring them to the embryonic stage of chordates. Most chordates have an internal skeleton against which muscles work, as I told you. So chordates have three subphyla, okay? So we can divide them into three groups, if we need to say. We have two groups that are invertebrates, or مش invertebrates, we need to say non-vertebrates phyla, and the third one is a vertebrate. Okay, so we have the Urochordata, okay, or what's known most commonly as tunicata. They are the larvae are tadpole-like and have notochord and nerve cord, but adults are going to lose the tail, the notochord, and the nerve cord. Okay, so these are three characteristics that are found in chordates. Okay, are going to be lost in the adult stage of Urochordata. And examples, sea squirts, also tunicates from the name, are examples of Urochordata. The second one are cephalochordata, where the notochords persist through the animal's life, and it's going to give rise, as we said before, to the vertebral column. And then we have the vertebrata, where the vertebrates where we belong to this subphyla. So كمان just additional info showing us additional features of chordates, and examples here have يعطونا the lancelets. Okay, so vertebrates, tunicates, and lancelets, they are all chordates. They are all coelomate animals, and we know coelomate animals, they have a coelom within the mesoderm with a flexible rod. They have the notochord, at least at the embryonic stage, the notochord, and that provides resistance to muscle contraction and permits rapid lateral body movement. Why do we have rapid body movement? Why do we have muscle contractions? Because we have our endoskeleton that when our muscles rely on to do all this movement, to do all this work. So we can see here the importance of the endoskeleton. We have in the embryonic stage the pharyngeal pouches or slits, okay, which reflect their aquatic ancestry in present habitat in some, and a holodorsal nerve cord. So on just basically they're just summarizing the features that we've the four features that we've talked before. In nearly all vertebrates, the notochord is replaced during embryonic development by the vertebral column. Okay. So vertebrates are chordates with a spinal column, okay, distinguished from non-vertebrates by the presence of the vertebral column or the spinal column and the formation of the head, okay, of a distinct head region. So the vertebral column, as we know, it encloses and protects the dorsal nerve cord. إذا نرجع to this diagram, you can see here, this is the dorsal nerve cord. The notochord could give rise to the vertebral column that's going to surround this nerve cord, okay, and protect this nerve cord, which is going later on to give rise to the nerve of the spinal cord and then maybe the nerves of the brain. Also, we have the head, which is distinct and well differentiating, possessing sensory, which is possessing sensory organs. We know all what the head is. So vertebrates, they also have the neural crest, which is it's found in the embryonic stage. Okay, it's a new group of embryonic cells that form many vertebrate structure. Actually, the neural crest, okay, it's going to be the initiator for signaling the formation of many organs from the embryo. Okay, so it's going to signal to send signals to allow the embryonic cells that are already cells to differentiate into different organs. We also have internal organs like liver, kidneys, endocrine glands, heart. We have a closed circulatory system, okay? And also we have the endoskeleton, as we know, that could be made of cartilage or bones, which makes us possible to have a great size and extraordinary movement, okay? We can see here, the endoskeleton is making us, is allowing us to have better movement. This is major characteristics of vertebrate. As you can see, we have head with a brain. Okay, we have a skull as well, which is characteristics of vertebrates. They have a skull protecting this brain. Then we have a brain region, the vertebral column, as we know, the dorsal nerve cord, and as you can see, the vertebral column, okay, is protecting the dorsal nerve cord. We have internal organs, liver, kidney. We have the heart with a closed circulatory system. We have limbs as well, and you can see, for example, some vertebrates like the crocodile, they persist, keep, okay, the post-anal tail, whereas, for example, other vertebrates like us, we don't, this post-anal tail is lost. So history of vertebrates, as we know, history of all actual terrestrial animals, not only vertebrates, come from fish, okay? So the first vertebrate appears in the oceans about 545 million years ago, where they have mouth at one end and fin at the another end. As you can see, this is mouth at one end and the fin at the another end. Then after that, jawed fishes, they became dominant, فعندنا fishes with the jaws. Then amphibians, fishes gave rise to amphibians that migrated to the land. Then amphibians gave rise to reptiles that became now the dominant vertebrates. Okay. Then birds and mammals became dominant after the dinosaur extinction. Why? Because usually mammals, they were an easy prey for dinosaurs. So once dinosaurs got extinct, then mammals got prospered and increased in number significantly and become the dominant animals, birds and mammals, after dinosaur extinction. So phylogeny of living trees is just showing us here the different types or the different animals belonging to vertebrates. As you can see here, I don't know what is this. What is this? Here we have, I guess they are all marine animals. We can see then we have amphibians, we have mammals, we have reptiles, as you can see here. So fishes, as we know, they are the ancestry of vertebrates. Okay, so they are the most diverse حتى vertebrate group. Fishes include species in different classes. Okay, so over half of all vertebrates provided the evolutionary base for invasion of land by amphibians. Okay, so we know fishes evolve through evolution. Okay, certain fishes, as we're gonna see later, has gave rise to amphibian-like animals and invaded the land, which is going, which was okay for you to say the father of all terrestrial animals. So certain characteristics of fishes, as we know, they have vertebral column, obviously, because they are vertebrates, except for two fish types, the hagfish and the lamprey. They also have jaws and bird appendages, also exception hagfish and lamprey. They have internal gills, of course. They have single loop blood circulation, okay? So I'm talking about closed circulation, يعني. And we have nutritional deficiencies, which means that they lack the ability to synthesize aromatic amino acids. And actually, all vertebrate descendants, all of us that descend from fishes, all vertebrates, they lack this characteristic. Okay, we lack the production of aromatic amino acids. So history of fishes. The first fish had mouth with no jaws, as we've seen before. It had a mouth at one end and the fin at the other end. So we still have fishes like that till now, like for example the agnatha, which now are found as hagfish and lampreys. And we used to have ostracoderms, but they are now extinct. We have the development of the jaws occurred in the Silurian period. Jaws evolved from the anterior gill arcs that were made of cartilage, okay? So this is as they're showing us here. So these are the gill arcs, okay, that were made of cartilage. Through evolution, these gill arcs gave us the jaws, which are bones, of course, made up of bones. So we have also regarding the fish, regarding the fin, okay, we have two types of fish. We have the ray-finned fishes and we have the lobe-finned fishes. The ray-finned fishes, or commonly known as the class Actinopterygi, okay, so they have parallel bone rays that stiffen with each fin, okay, as you can see here, and the fin doesn't have any muscles, it doesn't have any flesh. In the lobe fin fishes, also known as Sarcopterygi, okay, fins consist of long, fleshy, muscular lobe, as you can see here. It's a long, fleshy, muscular lobe, and it's supported by central core of bones with fully articulated joints. Okay, as you can see, this is the central bones. Okay, and we have articulated joints there, and we know that the role of joints is to have a stronger and better movement of the, in this case, of the fins. Almost certainly the amphibians and ancestors. Okay, so this type of fish is the amphibians ancestor. So now moving on, as I said, fish gave rise through evolution to amphibians that were the first to walk on land. Classes of amphibians, we have frogs. The order, you don't need to know the order. Okay, so just the examples. Yeah, so frogs and toads, salamanders and newts, caecilians. So five distinguished amphibian features. They have legs, okay, which is adaptation on land, of course. They cannot still swim, okay, on land. They have lungs, of course, for respiration in air. They have cutaneous respiration, which is respiration through the skin, okay. So it's used to supplement their lungs. They have pulmonary veins, which separate pulmonary circuit and allows higher pressure to form in the tissue. In this case, when you're talking about fish, we said they have single circulation loop. What does this mean? This means that the same blood vessels carry the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood that's pumped from the heart. At amphibians, they undergo an advantage, an evolutionary advantage. Here, they form pulmonary veins. So the pulmonary veins, okay, they carry the deoxygenated blood, and then they have the arteries that carry the oxygenated blood. So عندهم separation, and صار في عندك more concentration of oxygenated blood to go to the tissues. So صار في عندنا what? صار في عندنا better nourishment of the tissues, and they have partially divided heart, which also improves the separation of deoxygenated and oxygenated blood, okay, even in the heart, okay. So راح يكون في عندك maximum efficiency, because the deoxygenated and oxygenated blood they mix together, راح تخف الefficiency. راح يصير مثلا the blood half oxygenated instead of fully oxygenated, the blood that goes to the tissues. So why do they have successful invasion by the land? Successful invasion to the land requires certain adaptation, and we've talked about them. So they need their legs for them to be able to move and to support their body weights. They need lungs, okay, for them to extract oxygen from air. They have redesigned heart, as it's seen before, okay, and circulatory muscles, because they need stronger muscles to move on earth. As we know, gravity, because of the I forget the name of force that occurs in water, the gravity there, okay, is less. Okay, so they don't need as much muscles in water as that they need on land. Okay, so because of that, صار في عندهم better circulatory system to have more blood, more nutrition, to have stronger muscles, stronger organs in general, for them to be able to survive in the land. The reproduction is still in water because their egg can dry easily. Okay, the system, they have system to prevent whole body desiccation. That means whole body dehydration. Yeah. Okay, so they have system to prevent the huge water loss. So this is the Ichthyostega, which is the first amphibian to scavenge the land. I need to say, it has sturdy forelegs, as you can see here, flipper-shaped hind limbs. Okay, and it moves like a seal, so it moves like, if you need to say, like wiggling. Okay, its body. Long, broad, overlapping ribs from solid cage for lungs and a heart. So Tiktaalik, it's a transition fossil which was found to be between, okay, due to its characteristic, it was concluded to be between the lobe-finned fish and the Ichthyostega. Okay, so they found that it had gills and it has scales like a fish, but it has a neck, okay, like an amphibian, and it has shoulders and arms, okay, and wrist bones. Okay, it has wrist bones here, as you can see, but the end of its arm, okay, wasn't it doesn't have toes, okay, like the amphibians, like the first amphibian. Okay, it has still fins. So then after that, the amphibians give rise to, to the reptiles, the class Reptila. We have over 10,000 living species here. All living reptiles they exhibit three key features. اللي هن amniotic egg, which are watertight. So now reptiles are able to lay their eggs outside the rivers. عكس the amphibians that were not able. They always had to lay their eggs in rivers, in humid areas, whereas reptiles developed the amniotic egg characteristics, which are eggs resistant to dehydration. Okay, they also had a dry skin, عكس amphibians. So if you look at the frogs, for example, frogs don't have a dry skin because they have a moist skin, whereas reptiles develop the ability to have dry skins, and this is important to prevent the water loss from their body. And they have what's known as the thoracic breathing, which increases lungs capacity. لما نحكي عن thoracic breathing, we're talking about the formation of diaphragm, okay, and the intercostal muscles. I don't know if you know them or you remember them. The diaphragm contracts, it extends downwards, and the intercostal muscles relax, so they widen up. So our chest area is going to increase to give space for the lungs to expand more. Okay, and thus we're going to have increased lung capacity. So what are the characteristics of amniotic eggs? And one more thing is that the rest of the animals that have amniotic eggs, okay, they are classified as amniotes, okay, which means that they are able to form amniotic eggs, okay. And animals that belong to amniotes are reptiles, birds, and mammals, okay. So the amniotic eggs has four membranes. It has the chorion, which is the outermost layer, and it allows gas exchange. It has the amnion, which encases embryo in a fluid-filled cavity, and usually a fluid-filled cavity, it's for protection, it's a shock absorbent, and they have the yolk sac, which provides food and nutrition, because as we know, it's in an egg, it's not connected to its mother to give it nutrients, so it needs the nutrients taken from the yolk sac. And they have the allantois, which contains extracted wastes from the embryo. So this is just showing us the different order and examples of reptiles, lizards, we have snakes, turtles, alligators, dinosaurs, etc. So moving on, in mammals, okay, we have, مش in mammals, in vertebrates in general, we have three types, okay, of animals. Okay, animals with anapsids, animals with synapsids, and animals with diapsids. And we classify them, okay, according to how many holes do they have in the back of their skull. Okay, so if they have no holes, they are classified as anapsids. If they have one hole, they are classified as synapsids. And if they have two holes, they are classified as diapsids. Okay, so what's important here is that these holes, okay, are ways or are locations where muscles, okay, are connected to the jaws. So if we have more holes, that means we have more muscles. That means the strength of the bite, okay, the strength of the bite of the mouth, okay, of the jaws is going to be stronger, okay, so it's going to give them more strength. And because of that, animals with diapsid skull have stronger bites, okay. What are animals with diapsid skulls? Includes the largest animals to that point, okay, and they are the first bipedal animals. They give rise to crocodiles, to pterosaurs, to dinosaurs. Okay, so you can see they are all have strong bites, whereas synapsids rose dominant first, but then mostly comes extinct except for mammals. Okay, so they're talking here in the dinosaurs. They all get extinct except for birds that they are believed to be descended from dinosaurs. Modern reptiles. So modern reptiles have developed also two important characteristics. Okay, other than having amniotic eggs, as we said, and dry skin, and I don't know what was the third characteristics. They have also additional characteristics, اللي هن internal fertilization and improved circulation. Amphibians usually has external fertilization, but for example, in the frog, the male releases the sperm, yeah, directly once the eggs are outside the female's body, and then the fertilization occurs externally, or when the eggs at the extremity are at the extremities of the female body. Okay, so they get fertilized while they were releasing, while they are being released out. Okay, which is a bit less advantage because, as we know, in the outer environment, they are at a greater, much greater risk than they are in the mother's body. Okay, so reptiles develop this internal fertilization, which is the union of eggs and sperms inside the body. Okay, inside the protective body. And they have improved circulation, okay, where oxygen is provided more efficiently, and they now develop septums in the heart. Okay, as we know, the septum that's found also in our heart that that divides our heart into four equal chambers. Okay, and this is to have maximum efficiency for blood separation. Okay, deoxygenated and oxygenated, and also for blood pumping. So birds, also known as glass apes, they are the most diverse of all vertebrates. They have more than 10,000 species of birds, okay, and their success lies in their very unique feature, which is having feather, okay, and this feather is derived from the reptilian scales, okay, so as we know, they are derived from reptiles, okay, and the reptilian scales, if you need to see, مثلا at crocodiles or at lizards, we see this rough skin, these rough protrusions اللي طالعة من the body of the reptiles. These are the scales. Okay, so the scale gave rise to feathers in birds. Okay, so birds still retain many reptilian traits, like for example, the having amniotic eggs. Okay, and having scales, these scales on their legs. They have two major distinguishing traits, however, which are the feathers and the flight skeleton. Okay, the feathers, they are actually modified scales of the keratin, and they provide lift for flight, and they conserve heat. As you're going to see in the next slide, why do they do preserve heat, and they are used for flight. And we have the flight skeleton that is usually made of bones that are thin and hollow. Okay, and why do they have these bones to be thin and hollow? For them to not be first so heavy, so they can fly easily, and to just not create so much resistance. Okay, for the air. If the bones are thin and hollow, this would allow them to be lighter and to have less resistance to air when they are flying, and thus easier fly, less energy consumed for flying. Okay. So many are fused for rigidity. Okay, many bonds عم نحكي هون are fused for rigidity because, as you know, they are thin and hollow. They have keeled breastbone, which provides attachment sites for flight muscles. Okay, keeled breastbones, يعني they have these strong glass bones that are adherent to each other, which provide a strong attachment site for the wings because they're gonna use their wings a lot. So this is the structure of the feather that comes, as we know, from reptile scale. It has this linked structure that provide continuous surface and sturdy but flexible. So the actual structures of this feather, as you can see here, they are thin and they are flexible. So they are able to allow air to slightly pass through them for better flight. okay? Food بالphysics, it's a physical process here, but as well they are branched, okay, between them, and this is would allow them to be more strong, okay, to withstand harsh conditions, and also as heat resistant, okay, so they prevent the passage of so much air through them, okay, and also the dissipation of heat through them because of their branching characteristic. And because of that, we can see that birds, chicken, ما بعرف إذا حدا عنده chicken, we can see that even at very harsh conditions, they don't mind. They can go under snow, under rain. They can even sleep under rain because of this ability, because their feathers are almost impenetrable for water and for cold. So Archaeopteryx, which is the first known bird, it has a skull with a teeth, which is not characteristic of modern bird, of course. It has a long reptilian tail. Why? Because because it has the most features of reptiles as well. They have feathers on their wings and their tails. One theropod line evolved to become the bird. They have four limbs that are nearly identical to those of the theropods. The feathers are probably evolved as well for insulation. So theropods descendants, as we know, some believe that birds are direct descendants of the theropod dinosaurs. Okay, so now moving on to mammals. As we know, mammals there we are less diverse, 5,000 species, but most of the species are rodents and bats and shrews and moths. We have two fundamental characteristics or traits. اللي هن the hair, which is long keratin, rich filament that extends from the hair follicles, and it's used for insulation. So, for example, for heat, it's used as a sensory structure. It's used for camouflage. We have mammary glands as well, where females possess mammary glands that secrete milk. History of mammals. Mammals have been around, as we know, very long, so long before, 220 million years ago. But as we said, they were not as dominant, okay, as now because of the presence of dinosaurs. They were mostly tiny structures where dinosaurs can't eat, like shrew-like insect-eating, tree-dwelling creatures, and they were mostly nocturnal to get protected. Then they reached a maximum of diversity, as we know, after the dinosaurs extinction. Two subclasses of mammals, the Prototheria and the Theria. The Prototheria are the most primitive, okay, ones, and examples of them are monotremes. Actually, monotremes are the only living Prototherians till now, and these are the mammals that still lay eggs. Okay, and we have the Theria. They are viviparents, يعني they give birth, they don't lay eggs, and we have two living groups: the marsupials or pouched mammals, and the placental mammals. So monotremes, as we know, they are the most primitive mammals. They lay shelled eggs. They are like reptiles. They have single opening for feces, for urine, and for reproduction, acts the other mammals, where other mammals we have in males openings for urine and reproduction, and an opening for feces, and in females we have three openings, okay, opening for urine, opening for feces, and opening for reproduction, okay. They lack well developed nipples, so they can't lactate properly. Only three living species, the duck-billed platypus and two echidna species. Marsupials, they are their major difference is the pattern. So the major difference from placental mammals are just their pattern of embryonic development, where they have a short-lived placenta. So placenta is going to regenerate, and thus the embryo is going to be born, okay, but it's still not mature for it to be on its own. So it's going to crawl into a marsupial pouch, okay, as you can see, which is pouch in their mother, latches into the nipples, and it continues to develop inside the mother. And examples of these are the kangaroo, or the two only animals that are marsupials, and the kangaroo that are found in Australia, and the opossum that are found in North America. Placental mammals, which are us as humans as well, they produce a true placenta that nourishes embryo throughout its development. They forms from both fetal and maternal tissue, the placenta, and they have a long period of development after they are born, and as you know, includes most living mammals. The placenta, its characteristics of the largest group of mammals. It evolves from membranes in the amniotic bag, the chorion of the outermost of the amniotic bag that forms most of the placenta itself. It serves as the provisional lungs, intestine, and kidneys of the fetus without ever mixing maternal and fetal blood. So it's showing هلا الحمد لله ايه اوكي ايه sorry كان هذا security انا بالجامعه لانه so we're talking about the placenta. So as we said, it acts as our important, if you need to say, functional internal organs. Okay, so it acts as the lungs, intestines, and kidneys, okay, of the fetus, and we have the umbilical cord that evolves from the allantois. So evolution of primates. Primates are the mammals that gave rise to our own species, okay? And they evolved two features that allows them to succeed, okay, in their environment. They form the ability of having grasping the fingers and toes. So we kind of had our thumb, okay, further away from our rest of the four fingers. This was known as opposable thumbs, and it allows us to grasp things that other mammals cannot do. Other mammals cannot grasp things as us as primates do, in nahna and monkeys, gorillas, okay, etc. And we have binocular vision, which means our eyes are more concentrated into the front of our face, which allows us to have more spatial ability. Okay, so we're gonna have more precise, okay, judging of distances. Living primates, we have the first groups, and the prosimians, which are now considered paraphyletic. Paraphyletic, that means they are descendants of more than one common recent ancestor. We have examples: lemurs, lorises, and tarsiers. They have large eyes, include in visual activity, and mostly they are nocturnal, so they are active at night. Then we have the anthropoids. Anthropoids includes monkeys, apes, and the humans, and they are almost all of them are diurnal. Changes in eye design include color vision. They have expanded brains. Okay, they live in groups with complex social interactions that's not usually found in other mammals. They care for their young for extended period of time, and they have long period of learning and brain development. So we can definitely correlate with this because we belong to anthropoids. So anthropoid history, they are usually first discovered 30 million years ago, where New World monkeys migrated to South America, and Old World monkeys and hominids that we're going to see later on, they remained in Africa. So humanoids, okay, they are divided into apes and hominids. Apes, they include the gibbon, orangutan, gorilla, and chimpanzee. They have larger brains than monkeys, okay, and they lack tails, okay, and they are also paraphyletic. And as you can see, they lack tails as us, so we descended from them. Actually descended from the other group, but we belong to, we're gonna see it. So hominids that also contain orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees that we descended from, and as well humans. So basically hominids contain all apes except for the gibbons. Soon after the gorilla lineage diverged, the common ancestor of all hominids split off from the chimpanzee line to begin the evolutionary journey leading to humans. So this is just summarizing everything. So mammals, we have Prototheria and Theria. In the Theria, we have marsupial animals, aplacental mammals, implacental mammals, which are primates. We have prosimians and anthropoids. Anthropoids contain monkeys and hominoids, and hominoids contain apes and hominids. Okay, hominids are hominins, okay, plus chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas. So within hominids, as you see, as I've seen before, what do we have? We have apes and we have hominids, okay, and not all apes, okay, apes except gibbons. So the common ancestor of hominids is thought to have been arboreal climber. Okay, so hominids became. What do we mean by arboreal? Is that they move in the on their four limbs, okay, on their hands and on their legs. But then hominids became bipedal, so they became able to walk on only their two legs, okay, and thus walking upright. And also apes evolved knuckle walking. Axe monkeys, okay, which use palms, okay, rather than their hands. So what this is telling us here is that apes, okay, they put their hands on the ground as us. لما نحن, for example, بدنا نتبتب لنقول, we use our hands, our palms, okay, on the ground. Whereas monkeys, for example, they use the other side, okay, of their palm. They just press their fingers while they're if you just say أكفين إيدهم, okay, for them to move. بعكس apes that we use now, the knuckle walking. Difference is related to bipedal locomotion. So the bipedal locomotion makes our human vertebral column more curved, okay? The spinal cord exists from the bottom of the skull, and humans carry much of their body weight now on their lower limbs. Okay, mass are distributed equally على all their bodies. However, they're just showing us the only hominins, the types of animals, sorry, the types of hominins and how they evolutionarize. And all of them actually are extinct except for the Homo sapiens, which are us now. I think بس Homo sapiens, they are the old surviving hominids, as you said. Their progressive increase in the brain size, and thus it makes us more effective in making and using tools. It makes us more refined and extended for conceptual thought, and it allows us to use conceptual languages, symbolic languages, sorry. We have also extensive cultural experience. Any questions? All right. So in the time that we still have, let me stop sharing the screen. Share the other one. Without pressure. Let us try best to solve لو كم question منهم. Okay. So بس we'll solve ما راح اتاخر عليكم كثير بس we'll solve كم question and then I'm gonna send you the rest اكيد مع solutions تبعهم. The first question: if you found an organism on a beach, what characteristics would allow you to declare that the organism is an echinoderm? Okay, so what characteristics would tell us if the organism that we see now, that we're seeing on the beach, is an echinoderm? Radially symmetric adults, spines. Oh, you know what? Read them. أحسن ما أقراهم أنا. Read.
It's probably A.
Yes, exactly A. So as we know, echinoderms, they have the radial symmetric adults, and as we said before, the larva has a bilateral symmetry, but the adults are radially symmetric. They have spines, and they have the presence of tube feet. And we know tube feet that there are these small extensions, small feet, okay, below them to allow them to adhere to substrates and for locomotion. What is the diagnostic trait of vertebrates?
Can we say B and like they didn't have jaws at first?
Yeah, بس نحن we're saying here إنه what is only found in vertebrates and not in other نقول in other chordates. So some chordates have jaws.
C.
C, endoskeleton constructed of bones. All chordates have endoskeleton constructed of bones. Actually, all chordates have endoskeletons, either bones or cartilage. Vertebrates are part of the chordates. Invertebrates have actually skeletons, but they don't have vertebral column. We don't call them vertebrates. The vertebrates, both invertebrates and vertebrates, they have what? They have bones, but invertebrates don't have the vertebral column. Okay, so they both have endoskeleton, and this endoskeleton can be made up of bones and cartilage. They both have jaws, of course, because they have bones, so they definitely having jaws. But actually, specialized vertebrate, as we know, is they have this brain function. We've said it in the slides, and they have this brain area, and protecting this brain area is their skull. All right, so the skull is the correct answer. Clear? All right. 1 minute. Okay. All right, great. So why are the pharyngeal jaws found in many ray-finned fishes important? So why do we have the pharyngeal jaws? Actually, it's not in all fishes. Yeah. Why it's important to have these pharyngeal jaws? They allow the main jaw to be protrusible. They make it possible for individuals to suck food towards their mouth. They give rise to teeth that are found on the main jaw bones. They help they help process food.
Is it C?
D, yes, exactly. They help process food. So it's obvious the pharyngeal jaws is going to allow us, or fish, and نحكي هون, in this example, to have better chewing for food, to have better degradation of food. So it's easier for it to process it than when the food is in their body. So the correct answer is D. Which of the following lineages make up the living amniota? So what animals عم نحكي هون belong to the amniota?
Frogs, salamanders, and is it?
نحن قلنا انه the amniotes are what? The amniotes are animals that don't have that lay eggs that can withstand dry conditions. So they don't need to lay these eggs in water. But frogs شو بيعملوا? Frogs they need to lay their eggs in water. Frogs are not amniotes. So no, it's not C. It's A, exactly. Reptiles and mammals. Okay. So viviparous fishes, of course, they are fishes. So they're definitely going to lay their eggs in water. So they definitely are not amniotes. Frogs, as you said, are not amniotes. Hagfish, lampreys, they are all fishes. So they're definitely going to lay their eggs in sea. So only reptiles and mammals are the amniotes here. All right, great. So which of the following doesn't occur in either cartilaginous fishes or ray finned fishes? This is actually tricky. Actually, this question it's not that in ما كان في عنه info بالslides. The correct answer is feeding their youngs. Okay, so لأنه مش جايبين سيرة بالslides about oviparity and external fertilization. Okay, so forget about this question, guys. So most species of hominins are known only from Africa. Which species?
بس what can we say إنه الأنسر كانت B5?
What the question?
What's the right answer حتى لو ما أخذنا
بالfive, feeding of the young.
Yes.
We don't feed their youngs. They actually
Okay.
lay eggs as normal fishes. Yani we know usually fishes they don't move with their youngs. Okay, so they just lay their
Okay.
eggs and leave.
Okay.
So number 6, most species of hominins are known only from Africa. Okay, as we know, because this is where all mammals, or مش all mammals, all hominins and us humans descend from. Which species have been found in other parts of the world as well? كمان this is so detailed موجودة هي بالسلايدز but at the end of the slide but I don't think حيجي such questions بالexam. The correct answer is B, H. erectus, H. neanderthalensis, I don't know, and H. floresiensis. Okay, so the correct answer is B. I don't know if you know, guys, but we have at the level of during Homo sapiens evolution, during our evolution from chimpanzees, okay, we also at different levels. And for example, chimpanzees they gave rise to certain species, if we need to say, and then this species gave rise to another, and then to another, until we reach Homo sapiens. And actually, the different species have migrated to different areas in the world, and they started themselves, these other species that also are our relatives, they started themselves giving or evolutionarizing to give other species that are also related to us. But all these species, okay, حتى those that are found in other parts of the world, like H. erectus, H, and those three, okay, they are all became extinct.
This monkeys is the same that monkeys of New World.
ما سمعت قديش صوت.
هو نفس تبعولة New World monkeys اللي راحوا على South America.
Still صوتك ما عم تسمعه كتير. Can you raise the voice?
Okay. هول هن نفسهم New World monkey اللي راحوا على South America.
لا, that's different. No. How did they've already descended from the African monkeys and then they migrated. Okay. So what's the distinguishing features of all deuterostomes?
The answer is E, mouth before anus.
Mouth develops before anus. Yes, that's true. So the
Is it
correct
the right answer?
Yes, the correct answer is mouth developing before anus. Wait, deuterostomes, guys.
بتحاول ما العكس.
In anus develops before mouth. Yes, sorry, أنا لا انتبهت. So in deuterostomes, anus develop before mouth. حدا قال شيء أنا ما سمعت.
ما فينا نقول كمان إنه tail بس هو إنه بس بالأمبريو.
Yes, عم نحكي هون deuterostomes, for example, when we see adult individuals, so we can distinguish them. عم نحكي هون distinguishing features. Okay, some adults lose this post-anal tail. It's not universal. كمان هيك ما اخترناها. Actually, bilateral symmetry كمان بتسقط. So it could be bilateral symmetry and it could be anus development before mouth.
No, بس لما حكينا أول شيء I forgot the name. هن as adults they become يعني they have radial symmetry.
Yes, true, good point. Yes. صح. Because I'm نحكي هون distinguishing features for adults, so bilateral symmetry can't work. Yes, true. Okay, so the correct answer is D. So guys, our time is up. بدكم نكمل and solve بعد في I guess 3 questions or 4 questions, or بدكم to end and then I'll send you answer later on.
No, can we solve them please?
يلا sure.
فينا نكفي.
Okay, تمام. إذا حدا حابب يفل it's completely okay. Okay, so number 8. The localization of sensory structures at the anterior end of the body is, so what is the term that shows for that represents the localization of sensory structures at the anterior end? Cephalization, yes, exactly. So it's cephalization. Do you know شو هن the axis of our body? We have anterior posterior axis. يعني the anterior is the upper part, our head, and the posterior is towards the lower part, okay, towards our leg. We have the dorsal ventral. Dorsal, that means our back, and ventral is our belly. So this is, if you say the axis, different parts. And we have the left right, okay, our left part and our right part. So Echinodermata, number 9, Echinodermata are spiny, skinned marine animals that have radially symmetrical adults and bilaterally symmetrical larvae. True or false?
It's true.
True.
Yes, exactly. So they have the spiny skinned marine animals and their adults, we've seen it before, they are radially symmetric, and whereas the larva stage have a bilateral symmetry. Number 10, explain the water vascular system of echinoderms functions. Explain how the water vascular system of echinoderms functions as a type of hydrostatic skeleton. هذا بعد نتذكر كيف قلناها how it works as a type of hydrostatic skeleton.
No, I totally forgot it.
Okay, no problem. So لما نحكي عن hydrostatic skeleton إذا بنتذكر we have the word skeleton. So we can relate it directly. إذا بتتذكروها guys أنا هيك كنت أعملها لأتذكر. So we have a skeleton now. So دغري we can relate it to our cells, our bones, our skeleton. our muscles depend on this skeleton, on our bones, on our skeleton to act on them for us to move. Okay, otherwise, how the muscles would stay in their places, how the muscles would contract, how the muscles would allow us to move. The muscles would work on our bones, and together they would allow us to move. Okay, so muscles are based on bones. Okay, on the skeleton for them to do their work. So the same thing occurs in echinoderms. Okay, here the skeletons, okay, is in the form of a fluid-filled sac. Okay, it's like a sac. Okay, it's like a cavity that is fluid-filled. وإذا بنشوف think logically, it's like a balloon that's fluid filled. We can press on this balloon. Okay, we can say depend on this balloon to exert force على. So the same thing occurs in echinoderms. So they exert this force in this fluid-filled cavity, in this hydrostatic machine, on this hydrostatic skeleton, for them to allow, مثلا, for movement. حكينا at least contractions of the muscles, okay, for it to move the tube feet تبعها, for the echinoderm to move. We're gonna see later. Actually, I forgot to mention it for your information is that echinoderms, they inject, if you need to say, their stomach to the outside. They digest their food outside and then they absorb this food. So how does it do this? It pushes on the hydrostatic skeleton so it can move, so it can push its stomach. Okay, so this is the idea of hydrostatic skeleton. Get the idea of it?
Yes, all is clear.
Okay. This hydrostatic skeleton is actually مش إنه it's only found in the echinoderms for this purpose. It's actually a water vascular system. So it is used for the circulation of water throughout the echinoderms. And we know we need the circulation of water for sometimes بيكون فيها nutrients, بيكون فيها gases, oxygen for them to live. Okay, so it uses this water vascular system as the hydrostatic skeleton. Okay, so number 11, list all 4 morphological traits that distinguish chordates. And how are these traits involved in locomotion and feeding in larvae or adults? Okay, so to save you all the time, لأنه هذا it's just pure memorization, the 4 morphological traits. You're not seeing my screen. أحسن.
The nerve cord and the notochord.
Yes.
If you something for the slits that gives rise to gills.
The pharyngeal slits or the pharyngeal arcs.
And the tail.
And the post-anal tail. Exactly. Okay, so these are the 4 morphological traits. So, type, how are these traits involved in locomotion and feeding, okay, in animals that have them? Can you relate? I'm gonna give you a hint. Think of how شو رح يعطونا how the structures later on in the adult stage.
The muscles will be segmented.
Yes, exactly.
And thus they can move faster and like in more locomotion, I guess.
صح. So مثلا as well كمان bravo. So we have also the nerve cord and the notochord that are going to give us the spinal cord and the vertebral column, okay, for us to allow for better protection for our neurons, for better for better movement for in our backs and our bellies. Also the protection of the spinal cord by the vertebral column, okay, which are both the spinal cord and the vertebral column or derivatives of the notochord and the nerve cord, as we've talked before. So their presence here is going to allow us to have better protection for our nervous system and thus better ability to control everything in our body, and etc. The post-anal tail would give rise also to parts of the anus for excretion. Okay, so by that, these structures would give us advantage in locomotion and feeding. Clear?
Yes, all clear.
All right, great. So that was it for this session. Thank you all for attending. I hope انكم استفدتوا as much as possible.
Yes, this is my first session actually. It was amazing.
Okay,
so thank you so much.
Great. You're welcome anytime.